My background, you might have seen from my bio, is I help organisations and governments make the link between where the world is going, what it means for an industry or a sector, and how to take advantage of that. I'm not really a futurist. Futurists tend to stay right out in the blue sky and not make those tangible connections. I sort of deviate from that a little bit. I'm based in Christchurch. New Zealand loves me. I work in lots of places around the world. I'm very fortunate to do that in that respect. And I think it's very important to have that stretch looking at international perspectives and bring them back in to a New Zealand environment. Before I start, I want to take issue with something Bill English said last night, which I think is really important. He mentioned about the pace of change, and it is true that while many years ago people lived through accelerated change with the railroad and electricity, telegraph, etc., what is fundamentally different now about the pace of change is we've now created machines that create faster machines. And that is a fundamental difference to what happened previously. So now, the faster the machines, the more machines they can create, which are in turn faster. And that has implications across a whole range of things. I want to talk about three of those which are interesting to me now. There's a great quote from a science fiction writer called William Gibson. He said, the future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. And I want to give you two examples of where it's unevenly distributed and one example of a driver. So the first driver is nano-scale understanding of the world. So a molecular and atomic understanding of the building blocks of life and the building blocks of how we create new materials. Now this has implications in a whole number of areas. So you think about nanotechnology, and this enables you to create machines the size of a grain of rice and even smaller. And this has really interesting implications for manufacturing, for materials, etc., but also for biology. Now you may have come across a technology called CRISPR, which is relatively new. It's around how you edit DNA sequences. It has really significant implications for how you create new life forms, for example. But also that molecular understanding goes beyond that into areas around disease treatment, for example. So last year there was a paper released about a study done by the Mayo Clinic in 2014 where they engineered the measles virus in such a way that it cured an incurable cancer in a lady within 36 hours. Now that's sort of science fiction. But what you're seeing is that this understanding of life at this very, very small level will significantly impact your lives in your lifetime. Now the next thing is around autonomous cars. Now I want to talk about the implications on society of these things, because right now a lot of the discourse is around what technology sits in the car and how you will be able to have a car that follows you around, basically. Well, that's not going to happen. What is going to happen is you will start to see fleets of autonomous cars in much the same way you see taxis now. So what you'll find is that people like Uber and Tesla combine, and you'll no longer have an ownership of a car. What you'll have is mobility on demand. This will change public transportation, this will change personal transportation, but more importantly it will change the fabric of the environment that you live in. So cities right now are built around cars and buses essentially. But you think about it, if you don't need to park a car, if you don't need to own a car, what happens to things like garaging, to maintenance, to parking buildings, to commuting? It's fascinating. The whole fabric of cities will change fundamentally very, very quickly. There's estimates that the number of private cars needed will drop by something like 30%, total journeys will go up, but all sorts of things start to fall out of this. So as a parent with 3 young children, my Saturday mornings are basically preoccupied with being the shuttle. Right? There's sports things, there's shopping runs, there's going to Bunnings, you name it. So conceivably I could unleash 5 different cars for 5 different purposes. So shopping, a run to Bunnings, 3 different sports trips, and stay at home. It changes how society thinks about transportation. It changes my personal use of space. It changes how space is used within cities, and it changes how you think about getting around. Now, what I also find interesting about technologies is that often they blindside each other. And I think what's going to happen here is blindsiding around artificial reality. And by that I mean augmented reality and virtual reality. Has anybody spent time with a VR headset at all in this room? A couple of you, right. There is a VR headset out now by a company called HTC, which started its life in smartphones. It's called the Vive. I've spent a lot of time inside a Vive VR environment over the last few months, and it fundamentally changes how you experience technology. So what it is you put this headset on, and you have these hand controllers that map where your hands are in a virtual world, and you interact in a space that doesn't exist, but inside your head feels real. And it feels so real that when you take it off, it's disappointing. Right? You're back in an ordinary room, whereas before you were flying through the air, you were painting in 3D, you were navigating through a solar system. Stuff which just seems impossible will become a way in which you interact with technology. So there's virtual reality and there's augmented reality. A company called Magic Leap in the States, which actually has the guidance of some smart Kiwi expats over in Miramar, is doing amazing things which will also totally eclipse the way you deal with technology. Smartphones right now seem like the be-all and end-all. I'm thinking that within 5 or 10 years, smartphones will seem antiquated, and augmented reality and artificial reality will be the way that people start to think about interacting with technology. The blindsided bit is when you think about the implications of technology on society, which I think is the most interesting part. Why would you want to commute when you can actually work in a virtual environment which is as real as the physical world? So you have these interesting predictions of where VR will go and where autonomous vehicles will go, but I don't think people have actually start to map out what happens when society figures out how to use these technologies in different ways. I'll leave you with that thought. My 6 minutes is up. Thank you very much.